What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. The Halo TV show just released and I watched it yesterday, and today I want to make a review on it. If you know me personally, you know I'm not a big fan of video games being adapted into movies or TV shows, mainly because 9 out of 10 times they end up being really bad. But I decided to give Halo a chance since I love Halo and I and many others have been waiting for something like this since 2007. So I came into this show with an open mind. I'm not going to waste any more time with this intro, so let me start with the positives, then go into the negatives. To start things off, I think it introduces the world to those that have never played Halo before in a really good way. It doesn't go into too much detail since it's only the first episode, but it does clearly show that the main war at the moment is with the insurrectionists and that the war with the Covenant is still fresh and kept hidden from the general public. It also shows who the Spartans are, how they're basically soldiers brainwashed by Dr. Halsey. They did have some emotions, but you could tell there's something not right with them. I do think they went a little overboard with the emotionless super soldier thing since they're not this emotionless in the game, but I'm sure that'll change as the show goes on. And that seems to be one of the many themes going on in this game is Master Chief gaining these emotions, he's becoming more human, and I know Cortana was the one to start this, but she is in the show, so I feel like she is going to finish that process somehow. I also like how it starts off with the insurrectionists. The war with the rebels have hardly been touched within the games. The last time I recall, the closest encounter we got to insurrectionist rebels was the first mission in Halo Reach, and it was mainly through dialogue and not actually fighting them. That was over a decade ago, and we haven't gotten anything related to insurrectionists since. I know the books go into way more detail, but it's still very satisfying to actually see them in action with my own eyes instead of my imagination. Here we finally get a glimpse of what life is like on the insurrectionist side. They're fighting for independence from the UNSC despite their colony being clearly underdeveloped with technology as old as ours, or even older in some cases, which explains why the early trailers showed AK-47s and Chevys instead of MA5s and Warthogs. And I know what you're thinking. No, these aren't the props for every scene in the show. Later in the episode, they go to Reach, and it's basically a night and day difference. And starting with the insurrectionist rebels gives us something that I've always wanted in the Halo games aside from the insurrectionists themselves: gore. I did read some early non-spoiler reviews saying that it was more graphic than the games. I thought this just meant there was going to be more blood, people getting stabbed by swords, or maybe at worst a hand being cut off or something like that. 5 minutes into the show, it was a slaughterhouse. Faces and limbs were being blown off, people were being incinerated or even blown up. An elite pulled off an Anakin at one point. Dead bodies were shown with missing heads, limbs, or even half a face. All of this made my jaw drop. Not because it was gory, I grew up watching movies like Rambo, so this really wasn't anything compared to that, but because I never thought I'd see this in anything Halo related. For those that have never played the Halo games, this isn't normal. For years, both Bungie and 343 were too afraid to add anything more than blood and dead bodies to help maintain a very light rated M or a heavy rated T. The most we got to gore was the Flood and Forerunners falling apart like Legos, sharding out pixie dust. So seeing all of this so suddenly really did shock me, and it made me want gore in the games now more than ever. Some people are saying that this was unnecessary, but I don't think so. It does show how ruthless and brutal the Covenant can be against regular people with technology similar to what we have now, and it shows that the producers and screenwriters aren't playing around with this show. Casting is perfectly fine to me, I'll get to that in a moment. I never noticed any cringy lines that made me want to blow my brains out. It's basically doing a good job as far as introducing us to this world. I can't say much about the overall story since this is just one episode out of the many yet to come, but what I can say is that it's very promising all things considered. Now onto the negatives, everyone's favorite because there are quite a few of them and some of them are very concerning. The CGI, I'm sure you guys have seen the clips online of the assault rifle being flown or dragged across the floor and it looks so fake it's laughable, or Master Chief jumping around everywhere and it just looks really fake, or this plasma pistol being real in one shot but then the other shot it's like brown or white. It's almost like they forgot to put in the color. Honestly, I have to agree with it looking really silly, but personally, bad CGI, especially when it's only a few hiccups, doesn't take me away from enjoying the show. I think what really kills it for most people is the budget. It's apparently $1 million per show, and seeing a hiccup like this really does leave a sour taste in people's mouths. I guess I'm not as picky with this since I watched the Arrowverse and Once Upon a Time, and the CGI there is just Yeah, it's not the greatest. However, if a story is good enough, it's forgivable in my eyes, but that's just me. I never expected MCU quality to begin with, and you shouldn't either. The biggest red flag to many was Master Chief showing his face so early within the show. Personally, I don't have a problem with his face being shown at this point. As a kid, the mystery of who the Chief was a cool mystery, but after playing through numerous campaigns throughout the decade, it's just old at this point. Again, that's just me. If you guys like the mystery, okay, I understand why you're pissed off. But for me personally, I just wanted to get it over with, I guess. What I didn't like was how quickly they did it. What they should have done is just have a shot with his helmet off, but only showing the back of his head instead of his actual face, leaving that mystery for the end of the season, similar to The Mandalorian. But at the same time, we all knew the actor was Pablo Schreiber. I'm sorry, I can't say his last name to save my life, so I don't know if there was much of a mystery to begin with. I don't know, I guess I'm 50-50 on it. Let me move on before you start sending death threats in the comments. Apparently, the lady with the Covenant is the only human on their side, and she's supposed to be some kind of Arbiter replacement. If that's true, then that's kind of disappointing. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat that. That really does suck. Just bring one of the Arbiters. It doesn't have to be the one from Halo 3. It could be the one from Halo Wars. Just don't let it be a girl. And I'm not being sexist, I just can't see a human girl being an Arbiter replacement. Some are still angry at the fact that Miranda and Jacob were race swapped. I don't really see this as a big issue even after watching the first episode, considering how Marvel did this with Nick Fury, and now no one can see anyone else playing the role. So as long as these two can play their roles well, I don't really mind the change. The rest to me are just little nitpicks here and there, like the DMR being an automatic, these cringy shots of the show going to first person like we were playing the video game. The Doom films did this and I hated it. It's not going to make gamers orgasm, it's just going to be really cringy, so please stop doing this with that intention. I guess my bad history with previous adaptations of games into movies and shows have gotten the better of me since I have an angry mob waiting for me on Twitter, and maybe I am playing this too safe. These are just my opinions, and if you don't agree with them, that's okay. If I had to rate this show based on this one episode alone, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It's not revolutionary, it's probably not going to be the show we've all been waiting over a decade for, but it has me hooked so far, and I'm definitely going to stick around to see how the story ends up. But that's just my opinion. What are you guys' thoughts on this Halo TV show so far? Let me know down in the comments below. I hope you did enjoy the video. Leave a like, subscribe for more content, and I'll talk to you all later.